Hello, everyone, once again. Thank you very much for joining. Indeed, thank you for joining. My name is Ugochi Izora, and I'm the head of operations for Livestock 247. Welcome to Livestock 3.0, the conference. The theme for this conference is the economic development of women in Africa, the role of agriculture. Now, I'm just going to give a brief history of Livestock conference. The livestock conferences. So we started the livestock conferences as we wanted to create a safe space for people to talk about agriculture, people in agriculture, people interested in agriculture, animal lovers, just anybody interested in agriculture. And so we just wanted to create a safe space for everyone to have a conversation on the issues that affect agriculture, issues like financial inclusion, gender inclusion, security, and technology, and things like that. So that is the whole idea for the livestock conferences. I'm going to give a brief, I'm just going to quickly run through the ground rules for this conference so that we can all be aware of what is expected of us. So the first one is only the speakers, that's the panelists, are allowed to speak. If you're a participant, you realize that you cannot, there's no space, you're not allowed to speak. So only the panelists are allowed to speak. Now, for all participants, we're going to be collating all questions that you have, and we're going to be asking the panelists as we proceed. So please drop all your questions in the question and answer space or the chat box, and then we'll collate them and ask the questions as we go on. Now, kindly check us out on our social media pages, on LinkedIn, that's at livestock www.linkedin.com/livestock 247, on Facebook, www.livestock247.com, www.facebook.com/livestock247ng, and then on Instagram. And then we'll be adhering to very strict time maintenance. We're going to be to the time. We're going to be adhering very strictly to the time. For all questions, the questions, answer to the questions will be for 4 minutes. And then if any panelist wants to comment on a question or an answer, will take just 1 minute, 30 seconds. As we speak now, this conference is live on Facebook. So for people that are not on Zoom, that are not joining us on Zoom, you can still join us live on Facebook on www.facebook.com/livestock247ng. Thank you very much. At this point, I'm going to be introducing Mr. Ibrahim, who is our CEO, to give the welcome address. Mr. Ibrahim.
Thank you, Ugochi. Thank you all. And I'm very excited and happy to be here this morning. And I would like to welcome on behalf of the board and management of livestock247.com to welcome our esteemed panelists and our distinguished participants that are joining us from all over the world. We're welcoming you to Livestock 3.0, which is the 3rd edition in our series of conferences. And I want to assure you all that we are so happy and we are not taking this for granted. And knowing we are already in the holiday seasons, people are traveling up and down, and for you to have time to be with us this morning is an indication of your commitment to see to the development, economic development of the women of Africa. And I also want to seize this opportunity to tender an apology on behalf of Amina Oyabola, our board chair, who is supposed to give the keynote in person, virtual, but because of a conflicting pressing family engagement at this particular time, she sent in a video, a very interesting video of our keynote. But all the same, we'd like to extend her apology for not being with us virtually, and but we play her video as I've already said. So once again, I welcome you, and we're so excited. I'm looking forward to learn from so many interesting, strong women and women champion on this very important topic of using agri as a catalyst to see the development of women in Africa. Thank you very much, and I hope and pray that we're going to have a very, very eventful and engaging and learning conference. Welcome on board.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ibrahim, for the wonderful welcome address. So at this point, I'm going to be reading the citations of all our panelists. We have very powerful women here with us. Mrs. Ndidi Okonkwo Umuneli. Mrs. Ndidi Okonkwo Umuneli is an expert on social innovation, African agriculture and nutrition, entrepreneurship, and youth development. She has over 25 years of international development experience and is a recognized serial entrepreneur, author, public speaker, and consultant. She founded the Leap Africa in 2002 to inspire, empower, and equip a new cadre of principal, discipline, and young leaders in Africa. She is also the executive director of Faith Foundation. Mrs. Umuneli serves on the boards of the Rockefeller Foundation, the Global Alliance for Improved Nutrition, AGRA, Nigerian Breweries PLC, and a host of other international and national companies. Currently, she is the managing partner of Sahel Consulting. Thank you very much, Mrs. Ndidi Umuneli, for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Mrs. Aderoju Odunsi. Mrs. Aderoju Odunsi is an agribusiness specialist and has been an entrepreneur and trainer for over 30 years. She is a Marshall Fellow and she is licensed by the International Finance Corporation to train. She's a certified trainer for the International Finance Corporation on Business Edge, a certified trainer for Insight Learning Foundation. Currently, she is the CEO of Sorello Foods and Beverage Company Limited, and also the president of Lady Rancher Cooperative Multipurpose Network. She's also the founding member and the first vice president of the NECA Network of Entrepreneurial Women. Thank you very much for Mrs. Aderoju for joining us. We're very grateful for your presence.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Mrs. Mariam Aliko Mohammed. Mrs. Mariam Aliko Mohammed is the principal consultant and executive director at Modalali, a personal and professional development consultancy. She is also the school lead for Kaduna International Schools, leading a team of over 30 educators. She is a certified youth development officer with the Commonwealth and ILO and is licensed to use the HPLIFE entrepreneurship tool to train young people to start businesses. She is an accomplished professional with over 24 years in management and leadership positions. She is a trained executive coach with special emphasis on the psychological dimensions of learning. Mrs. Mariam is the founder of Maria Kuti Empowerment Foundation, an organization that serves to develop young people as a whole, but specifically those in domestic service with employability skills, enterprise and entrepreneurship development. Thank you very much, Mrs. Mariam, for joining us.
Thank you, Ugochi. Thank you for the introduction.
And Mr. Ayodeji Balogun, who is our women champion for today. Mr. Ayodeji Balogun is the CEO of AFEX, where he is leading a team of experts leveraging technology, innovative finance, and inclusive agriculture to connect agri-SMEs and smallholder farmers to commodity and financial markets. He holds an MBA from the Lagos Business School and is a certificate in creative leadership from the Think School of Creative Leadership. Ayodeji has almost 20 years experience trading across West Africa, as well as in building and scaling businesses across sub-Saharan Africa. He serves on several capital market boards and works with several institutions on food security and financing agriculture. Unfortunately, Mr. Ayodeji Balogun will not be joining us at this meeting because he is currently on transit, but someone else will be joining us in his place. And as soon as he joins us, I will be introducing him. Thank you very much, Mr. Ayodeji. And now, finally, I'm going to be reading the I'm going to be doing the citation for Amina Oyabola, who is our CEO, our board chair. Amina Oyabola is an independent director and business consultant with over 30 years experience in corporate Nigeria. Her career spans HR strategy and transformation, legal consulting, women empowerment, banking and finance, oil and gas, and telecommunications. She is a fellow and former chair of the African Leadership Initiative West Africa, which is a part of the Aspen Global Leadership Network. She's a member of the Nigerian Bar Association, member of the International Bar Association, member of the CIPM, and a chartered fellow with CIPD UK. She is a fellow of the Institute of Directors, a certified ethics officer. She is the chair, IOD Committee, Ethics Committee, and a member of the Women Corporate Directors. Amina is a fellow of the Institute of Management Consultants and a member of the International Coaching Federation. She is the founder and chairperson of WISCA, which is Women in Successful Careers, a not-for-profit gender empowerment and strategic mentoring and leadership network for professional career women. Currently, Amina Oyabola is the CEO and managing consultant of AKMS Consulting and the board chair for Livestock 247. She is also our keynote speaker, and she'll be delivering her keynote address via video, which will be playing shortly. Thank you very much for listening.
Good morning, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the board and management of Livestock 247, I warmly welcome you all to the third edition of Livestalk, the conference by livestock247.com, themed Economic Development of Women in Africa, the Role of Agriculture. Thank you very much for your kind invitation to deliver the keynote address on the role of agriculture in economic development of women in Africa. And I wish I was right there with you at this time, but I'm glad for the opportunity to be able to communicate with you using this digital platform. The international development community has recognized that agriculture is an engine of growth and poverty reduction, a very, very powerful engine. The Food and Agricultural Organization, FAO, reports that women make essential contribution to the agricultural and rural economies in all developing countries. Their roles vary considerably between and within regions and are changing rapidly in many parts of the world, where economic and social forces are transforming the agricultural sector. The Food and Agricultural Organization states that efforts by national governments and the international community to achieve their goals for agricultural development, economic growth, and food security will be strengthened and accelerated if they build on the contributions that women make and take steps to alleviate their constraints. But the agricultural summary for the agricultural sector in many developing countries is underperforming, in part because women who represent a crucial resource in agriculture and the rural economy as farmers, laborers, and entrepreneurs almost everywhere face more severe constraints than men in access to productive sources to thrive. A recent Agriculture for Impact report notes that women farmers contribute up to 50% of the labor on farms in sub-Saharan Africa. 50%. More than 60% of employed women in sub-Saharan Africa work in agriculture. However, women receive only 7% of extension services, 1% of all agricultural credit, and own only 1% of the land. It is therefore clear and stark that developing policies that focus on the needs of women is not just a political priority, it is an economic imperative for our development and shared prosperity, not just as nations, but on the continent itself. As the FAO states, there is a significant global gender gap in agriculture, which translates into a costly lost opportunity to improve the quality and quantity of the world's food supply, reduce poverty, and improve peace and security. If women had the same access to and control over productive resources as men, they could increase yields on our farms by 20 to 30%. This could raise total agricultural output in developing countries by 2.4 to 4%, which could in turn reduce the number of hungry people in the world by 12 to 17%, and that translates to over 100 to 150 million people. Drawing on a very large body of research, the FAO confirms that putting more income in the hands of women yields beneficial results for child nutrition, for health and education, and for peace and security. In summary, women have a critical role to play as farmers, as mothers, as innovators, educators, and stakeholders. So what are the barriers, some of the barriers that women face as players in the agri sector? And what are some of the steps that can be taken to mitigate the challenges and constraints as we look to the future? Widely accepted research reveals the following barriers. First, women in Africa are challenged because of their inability to legally or customarily own land, and that needs to change. Secondly, rural smallholder farmers have limited access to reliable financial and banking facilities. Thirdly, productive farming requires reliable and sustainable transportation, tractors, sanitation facilities, clean water, fertilizers, pesticides, and herbicides, among other agrarian inputs. As these are cost-intensive, without adequate funding mechanisms, they cannot be procured. Consequently, some women struggle to maximize their agricultural output and subsequent compensation. Fourthly, the lack of agricultural extension services has also negatively contributed to the limited farming outputs amongst women in rural Africa. And finally, lack of access to the internet and emerging digital technologies. In terms of solutions to these barriers, I will touch on technology and financial inclusion. First, technology as a key and critical enabler. The African Union Panel on Innovation and Emerging Technologies, APET, encourages African countries to incorporate emerging technologies and innovation to address the gender gap. For instance, incorporating technology into women's farming activities can significantly upsurge access to markets and financial instruments, irrespective of the farmer's gender. Emerging technologies such as digital, artificial intelligence, and robotics technologies can improve agro-processing value addition. Cooling technologies such as charcoal, cool storage facilities can reduce food wastages, and canning technologies can enhance the preservation and shelf life of products. Thus, access to innovation and emerging technologies can improve agricultural productivity and efficiency for rural and smallholder farmers, irrespective of gender. I salute livestock247.com for its many products using technology to mainstream the sector. A few examples. Buy from Women initiatives in countries like Rwanda have encouraged adopting digital agricultural technologies to increase access to markets for African women farmers. This project created digital-enabled platforms that connect women farmers to agribusiness information, financial instruments, and produce markets. Consequently, through this initiative, women farmers have improved their entire agribusiness life cycle. In Kenya, women farmers have adopted an effective utilization of digital technologies from their smartphones to access weather-related information and weather trends. This information allows women farmers to predict suitable planting seasons and harvest times, more especially concerning the crops that require drying. Here in Nigeria, projects like Aldin, managed by Sahel Consulting, is using various technology tools to improve dairy production in many pastoral communities. The various technologies adopted are also building on women's strengths in indigenous knowledge of local and organic crops. In order to leave no one behind and reduce the gender divides, there have been proposals by organizations like the FAO for countries to develop national digital strategies for agriculture and rural development, where gender issues are mainstreamed. A second solution is financial inclusion. Now, financial inclusion is important for women to access loans, credit, and to make transactions and scale their businesses. It is also essential to save money and build assets in a safe place, which can in turn take them out of poverty. Savings interventions increase women's business earnings. Financial inclusion has been shown to have a positive influence on economic growth and sustainable development. Bringing it home to Nigeria, in an article by Olayinka Adigbite et al. For the Conversation.com, the authors identified the need for a Nigeria-specific strategy to integrate gender-specific goals for financial inclusion in smallholder agriculture. Such approaches should include developing agricultural finance innovations that reflect the realities and life cycle of women in agriculture. They also need to be affordable and based on the financial needs of farmers. Similarly, successful models like the Nigerian incentive-based risk-sharing system for agricultural lending should integrate and empower women smallholders in the agricultural value chain financing models. Finally, the authors suggest that it is important for Nigeria's financial literacy agenda to be extended to smallholders and rural dwellers. There should also be systematic efforts at all levels of society to empower women and ensure that they have direct access to finance and control. In conclusion, ensuring financial inclusion of underserved groups within the agribusiness sector, particularly women, and incorporating women's participation in the digitalization of Africa's agriculture is a prerequisite for the continent to thrive and achieve the aspirations of AU 2063 agenda, the Africa we want. I thank you very much for listening. Enjoy the conference.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Amina Oyabola in absentia, for the most wonderful keynote address. Right now, we're going to be having the first poll session. It's just going to take about 20 to 30 seconds. The first poll session will be up now, and for the participants only, the attendees will have the opportunity to vote on a particular subject matter. Okay, so this is the first poll session, first poll, just 20 to 30 seconds, and only the participants, the attendees can vote. Thank you very much. At this point, we are going to be delving straight into the panel session. Remember, today we're talking about the economic development of women in Africa, the role of agriculture. Also, this conference is being streamed live on Facebook. To join us via Facebook, go to www.facebook.com/livestock247ng to join us on Facebook. Thank you very much. Now we're going straight into the panel session, and the first question is directed at Ndidi Uneli, Mrs. Ndidi Uneli. Ma, what are the proper indices to measure or determine economic development of women in Africa, taking into consideration our current socioeconomic status? Mrs. Ndidi.
Good morning, everyone, and it's a pleasure to be here. Congratulations to Livestock 247, who's a partner on Aldine. And thank you to the chairperson, Mrs. Amina Oyabola, for a fantastic speech. In fact, she's covered so much of what we will all be discussing, and her insights were profound. So please convey our gratitude and best wishes to her. In terms of the indices, clearly we have a range of indices that are already accepted by most development agencies around not only income per household, but income per individual generated. We also look at contributions to GDP. And when we look at GDP per capita or even income, we always see that women lag behind. In the professional setting, we look at the wage distribution, and there is a wage gap. So average salaries for females versus average salaries for men in different professions. And then we also see a wage gap. And then another indices that has been recently studied in the Nigerian context by the World Bank is actually yields. And their data shows that women generate 30% less yields than their male counterparts and 60% less profits when you come to women entrepreneurs. And so in that case, they're looking at the profitability of the business, the revenue generated for female businesses versus male-run businesses, as well as the yields in the in standard plots of land, let's say maize or yam. And their data is obviously based on a wide range of value chains. So I think we haven't agreed on a standard indices, but I think it varies by profession, it varies by context, and for me, I think we need to also reach some type of consensus on what indices we're going to measure. But I think all of these are very useful indicators, and the ones I've cited just show that there is still a huge gap between males and females in our context.
Thank you very much for the very robust answer. Contribution to GDP. And I know there's been a lot also, and wage distribution, and then profitability and yields. I'm taking notes. Also, I just need to state this here. I hope that all our attendees and everybody are taking notes, because answers and things that we'll be learning from this conference are not things that you would find anywhere. So please, I hope you have your pen and your notepad with you to take notes, please. Thank you very much. Now, the next question will be for Aderoju, Mrs. Aderoju Odunsi. Ma, from your experience, what is or are the major problems and limiting factors to women in Africa? You know, what are the limiting factors that they face when it comes to agribusiness for women in Africa? Ma, your mic is muted, ma. Can we unmute her? Can we unmute her?
Okay, I'm unmuted now. Can you hear me now?
Okay. Yes,
okay.
ma. Yes.
Thank you so much, Ugochi. Thank you to the chairman, Amina Yagbola. I must say that this is one woman that I've admired over the years, and also Ndidi. You know, I have great respect for her and her contribution to this space. And I want to comment the answers that have been given so far. Yes, the keynote address was very, very robust and covered a whole lot of wide range of topics. As Ndidi has said, we do have challenge. And thank God that there is a base that we can start from, which is how do we now bridge this gap? One thing I want to say also is that even in the income, when we're saying that the income that the women are bringing is less, we must also know that even the ability to spend the income they generate is also an issue. When we are talking about challenges, number one, we've had that limited access to land. Land holding system is a challenge. You find that women in agriculture tend to have small acreages of land, which really doesn't belong to them. They have limited access to finance. They are limited in education. Even when someone is going to adopt technology, they need a certain level of literacy, functional literacy. So that is not there. The fact that the African woman has a lot of roles that they are playing domestically because of our culture. They have to do a lot of things at home. By the time they finish that and get to the farm, productivity is actually reduced. if a male child and a female child are in a house that is a farming household, you find out that the female child will also join the mother to be doing things at home and also will have to go to the farm. Of course, things are changing gradually, especially in the cities. But basically, issues of access to finance, issues of access to land, issues of access to necessary inputs, and lack of information, the information dissemination. I will say some of it is because women generally also are not proactive in looking for information. So certain things are available now, especially if I talk about Nigeria. A lot of programs have been brought on to include women in agriculture and agribusiness generally. The other issue is that a lot of the women in agriculture in Nigeria are in the agrarian sector. They are farming in a farming system that is not as productive. We had the statistics. Women make about 60% less income from the same farming operation, unlike men. So the capacity to earn income is already reduced. And if the system is not modernized, it's going to continue like that. So these are some of the challenges that I can quickly say. And the fact that the work is not actually rewarded well. A woman goes to work in the farm, a family farm, she does not get paid. The same family farm employs a hired labor. The hired labor gets paid. The woman also does not receive a salary for the work she has done. I think I want to stop there and let others contribute.
Wow, thank you very much, Ma. You said something that really struck me. You said that women are generally not proactive. Women are generally not proactive with getting information.
Yes, and reading.
And reading.
Yes.
Why do you think that we have that issue, Ma?
Well, I think possibly, except for the modern women in agriculture, I think it's also a cultural and societal things. Generally, there's a belief that Black people don't read. So if that belief is there, you can understand from our own culture that women will read and, get information less. Of course, it's also because they are bogged down by so many things. Bogged down by cooking and taking care of the household, taking care of the children. And so the little time they have left is not for reading. They are usually not people that will listen to the radio. So, so these are challenges. And usually this dissemination of information also does not favor them. It does not go to where the women are found. It's through the media that is common to everybody. So when we are seeking solutions, these are some of the places that we will look into.
Okay, thank you very much, Ma. Thank you very much for that response. I still have a few questions, but I would ask if any of the panelists wants to say something about that, or Mrs. Ndidi's response earlier. Does anybody have anything to say? Okay, so I'll move on to Mrs. Mariam. As an educator and development psychologist, how can we raise girls into empowered women? Mrs. Aderoju just told us now that, women culturally and with our society here, it seems like women have a lot against them that prevents them from being empowered women. And that's young girls rather. So how can we begin to raise girls that are, empowered women that can go and own their space?
Thank you very much, Ugochi. Hello, and thank you for the contributions before. Really, really interesting, especially, about yield. I think that's a shock for me that women have less yield and they have 60% less work. So for young girls, we're educators and we're starting them out young. I think one of the things that we need to do for young girls especially is to encourage diverse interests and talents. When a child or when a young girl expresses she wants to farm, the first instinct is that you're not a man, you're not strong enough, and so on and so forth. And so we have to have a system that encourages them. Farming is not about using your strength anymore to do work. It's also not about, it's about being smart. There's a whole value chain there that you could use any skill to go into agribusiness. So we shouldn't discourage girls. Then we also have to collaborate with parents, especially male parents. And in this, I would have to say that there's a place for male champions. Men, we have to collaborate with men for them to be able to understand where the girls are coming from and to be able to push that agenda that, look, I want to go into agribusiness and this is how you can support me. And also show them the gains that's going to happen with the family should they encourage their women to be able to do this. And as, Mrs. I think Ayo Aderuju, mentioned earlier about women, more often than not, they tend to be on the farms anyway, especially low-income earners. So most of them are, a third of low-income earners are employed by the agribusiness sector. And so women are already on the farms, women are already packaging, women are already doing all these things. So it's also to create value for them in that space. So as they're doing this, to recognize that it's something that they can earn money from and be paid for. We also have to give them a voice to speak. So when they start and they want to do something, we shouldn't shut them up. We shouldn't say, oh no, you can't do this because it's not, available. No, information is not available to you. Don't look at this space, or don't look here, or don't investigate here. You're just going to go and get married and you don't have time for that. So we need to be able to allow girls to find their voices, research, to do the things that they need to do to be able to, take up their spaces in such, places. And we need to also teach them how to healthily engage with society. So we know that a lot of people, especially, women that want to get into businesses that are traditionally male, sometimes when the men don't understand and the women insist, or the young girls insist, they get all forms of gatekeeping, violence, towards them and so on. And so we have to find a way to healthily engage with the men in our lives to be able to tell them or show them that this is the advantage to women, to the economy, to the family, to the community, to the society at large. So I think those are the things that we can do initially to be able to help, young girls realize their dreams of getting into this, business, and to make it meaningful economically and also purposeful for them. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mrs. Mariam. From what you're saying, I think that it is beyond many of the things that you have said is not just specific to agriculture, but also for other spaces too. I know that there's this drive for women in STEM, drive for women in different areas, the gender inclusion thing. So I think that what you have, the points you have raised or you have mentioned are things that we can adopt in other spaces. Ndidi, Mrs. Ndidi, when you were speaking, you mentioned some very shocking and very interesting things. You gave us some statistic that you said that women have 30% less yield and 60% less profits. Why do you think that's, why do you think we have that?
Thank you so much. So I think a lot of the reasons were addressed by Aminoya Bola in her speech. I'll use the first one, yields, and this is not my data, it's the World Bank data, which was actually published earlier this year. The yields are really linked to land, access to good agronomic practices, access to inputs, and access to support. Through our work, as you know, we work in dairy, but we also work in yam, cassava. Yiswa is one of our projects, the yam, comprehensive yam development project chaired by IITA. And what we noticed through our work in yam and cassava is that in many communities where women are giving land, they're given the most unproductive land. The men take the most valued land, and where they are given land by their brothers or by their husbands or by their fathers, it's usually unproductive land. In fact, we've seen this through our work, that it takes so much effort for them to even secure the land. And once they even get very profitable, let's say they have to rent land, the landowner often takes back the land. So inheritance laws and land laws have to be addressed in our communities to ensure equity. We also have to ensure that we give women support with extension. The average Nigerian farmer doesn't even get to see an extension officer. I think the last statistics I saw was one extension worker, 8,000 farmers, right? And it's supposed to be one extension worker to 400 farmers, according to the FAO. Now, when you think about the extension workers, most of them are male. We don't have many female extension workers. Through our Aldine program, through many of our programs, we're trying to train female extension workers. But let's be honest, with the safety challenges we currently face in Nigeria, it's even unsafe for male extension workers. And even, women extension workers face an additional burden. So that access to the best agronomic practices, access to fertilizer and seeds is a challenge. And so when you think about that, what you need, good land, you need access to the right technology, the right seeds, the right fertilizer, you need access to irrigation. And when you don't have access and you're limited, there are barriers that prevent you from getting access. Of course, your yields will be lower. So it makes natural sense. And if we're going to address it and we're going to create equity, we need to look at all of those key milestones. In terms of profitability, it's the same thing. Why are people profitable? They have economies of scale, right? When you sell more, you can reduce your costs. When women have little businesses, it's tougher for them to achieve economies of scale and negotiate costs. Access to markets. Logistics is a huge cost. And we always talk about middlemen in our industry. Where are the middle women? I always say, I don't know many female truck owners. I don't know many female, silo owners, even warehouses. And AFEX can affirm that throughout our ecosystem, when we talk about logistics, storage, we don't have many women who own heavy machinery. And the reason is because of access to finance. The last statistics I saw said that, first of all, only 10% of land in Nigeria is owned by women. Meanwhile, we have 50% of the population. And then only 4% of the financing comes to women. I don't know if it's improved more recently. So when you have those barriers, if you can't access financing, you can't invest in heavy machinery, you can't invest in silos or warehouses or trucks, that limits your access to markets, right? And that creates barriers. And so we need to address many of these impediments in our sector if we're going to see the equity required to drive growth.
Wow, thank you very much, Ndidi. So I'm just going to, I'll just ask our panelists, does anyone have anything to say from what she said? Mrs. Adu, okay, thank you very much.
Perhaps I can just collaborate what she said about the land. I was farming in Badagry, and I had the laborers that I had were women, very hardworking, very productive, and efficient people on my farm. And I asked them, what about your own farm? They didn't have any. And I said, so why can't you have? They said, our husbands will not give us. So, and I said, so how can we address that? They said, well, if we go to the Bale, which is the local chief of the community. So before then I asked them, where do you want? They now told me the most fertile farm. So I went to the Bale and asked him, and he calls me madam, and he said, anything you want, you can have. But the women told me our husbands are going to fight back. Now, this land is uncultivated by the men. It was in a riverine area where they are mostly fishermen. They farm where they want to. But giving the women that access was a challenge for them. They didn't want them to have it. And at the back of that was the fact that they would become independent. And we had to fight that. We formed the women into a cooperative, got them registered by the state government so that they can farm on that farm. As long as that chief was alive, that was achieved. But as soon as he passed on, cases reversed. So like Ndidi said, we need to formulate policies that will, give equal rights to land for women who want to farm. Also, women now, farmers must realize, and many are doing so, the lowest level of growing crops is where the least profit is. So when they begin to move along the value chain, they'll find out that they can make more money. They can have more access when they're in cooperatives, because probably some of their children can join them who are educated and know how to access this. It actually in the Nigeria of today is a lot easier than it has been before. If only people are in groups and they can have someone who gives them information. I work with many women groups, and this is something that I have seen. Even the educated ones expect somebody to feed them with information. And so it is easier when women are in groups. Of course, in the rural areas, they are in cooperatives, but still they are operating at a subsistence level. Large farm holding by women can solve all that. If in each community, each local head understands the important role that women are playing. A World Bank report says that if women are empowered, about 150 million households will be taken out of poverty. And so it's something we need to really look into very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Aderoju. Mrs. Mariam, I can see your hands up.
Okay, I just
Okay.
want to share my experience about farming. And a couple of years ago, we started farming, rice with my sisters, and riding on what Ndidi has said and Mrs. Aderoju. I think part of it also, apart from access to finance, is, managing men. That is also very difficult for women. If we get into farming and we need to employ men. So our own experience has been that, we've lost a lot, in terms of yield, in terms of profit, because we can't get men to sort of manage well. So in terms of trucks, you give somebody, the truck, he has to go and deliver something within, so time. And because, so basically patriarchy also has a role to play in this, Men tend to look at women as not serious sometimes in doing these things. And so they're not as, I don't know the word not as committed to do work for women as they are with men. So if you're holding something, maybe farming on a large scale and you need to manage men. So how we went around that was to actually not manage our farms, but find men that would manage it. And I think sometimes it's taken away from that information or that experience and, growing that women need to do to be able to get into this business. And this is just farm. But as Mrs. Aderoju says, there's a whole value chain around it. And I guess, sometimes maybe women to go around this perhaps is to get into, other value chains and sort of shore up their strength in that way. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you very much. I really appreciate the insight you are giving us from your experiences, and it just shows, for me, it feels like we're back to this patriarchy thing again. From what Mrs. Aderoju said and what Mrs. Mariam said, I think that we need to begin to address these issues from our society. And that will lead me to my next question. Mrs. Mariam, what role does our culture play in the development of women? How does our culture help or inhibit the wholesome development of the girl child? I mean, I know that we have the issue of patriarchy, but I want to believe that we still have some part of our culture that can, or we don't have any part of our culture that helps to develop a wholesome girl child. Mrs. Mariam.
Oh, this is a hard question. I hope that everybody gets to answer in the panel. I think our cultures, traditionally have, I would say kept women in certain roles, and not recognized a lot of, things that women contribute. So as Mrs. Aderoju has said, you'd employ, daily labor on your farm and you pay them 1,500 naira. And your wife comes and does even more work. She processes, after she even, helps out on the farm, she takes it home, she repairs everything, she does, arranges it, and still doesn't get a living wage for it. And sometimes not even appreciation for it. And as we've seen, if we want the good land, why, as Ndidi says, if a man, if he sees that you're being very profitable on this, farm, you can decide to just kick you off, or better still, increase the rates and the rent so you can never really make profits. So I think that our culture has has kept certain things the way that they are. And for us to be able to change it, I think we need to be able to bring everybody on board, get women to have greater voices, get cooperatives going, also get the men to be champions for women, the men to understand that if you incorporate your wife and everybody else within this business, it only helps you as well. I am not sure that, it's going to be a process that is going to be now, but I think it started with all the statistics coming out, with all the programs that are there, there's more opportunity for women. And I think for us women, there's opportunity for us to make, men more than just gatekeepers. We could actually make them partners in progress. I think I have said my bit, and I think Ugochi is unmuted. It has muted herself. Hi, Ugochi. I think I have run out of steam. I'm done. Okay.
Okay, thank you very much, Mariam, for the questions that you have asked. Like you said, this is a very important question, and I'm hoping that I can have Mr. Ibrahim answer this question for us too, because he's one of our male champions for this particular conference. Mr. Ibrahim, sir. Sir, your mic is mute. You're mute. Can you unmute your mic, sir?
Sorry about that. Thank you for squeezing me in. I've been following, and to be frank, I'm actually ashamed. Like I was just taking some notes. 30% of less yield, 60% of less profit. What indeed he said, like Mariam said, actually blew me away, and I started feeling kind of a guilt. I feel what Mariam said regarding conversation, women having conversation with men, trying to explain things to men. I think it should be the other way around. I've always been of the view that we put so much pressure on women that they always have to make their points clear. They always have to explain themselves. And don't forget that this is a non-statistics. Women multitask more than men. And I've always been telling people that there's this big scam around the world that it's a man's world. But I think it's a big scam. It's actually a woman's world in the sense that women have more depth. Women have more strength mentally. They're stronger than us mentally, men. And I believe if given a chance, for instance, I met Mariam more than 10 years ago at a LEAP conference. Remember, Mariam? LEAP is founded by Ndidi.
Yeah.
Ndidi happens to be one of the most impactful women I've known in my life. And when Mrs. Aderoju said about Amina and Ndidi, I was saying you can say that again. I actually met Mariam, and Mariam has been inspiring me, has been a friend at a LEAP conference, and LEAP Africa is funded by Ndidi, a woman. So Ndidi has managed to match all this role as a woman, as a professional, as a social entrepreneur, as a leader, and she's doing an awesome and excellent job. And Mrs. Adorojo on the other side, I mean, these are women that have kids, they have husbands, they have businesses, they employ people, and they're doing more. So if you think that with all this tax, with all this expertise that women have, they need to also explain themselves all the time to men, I think should be the other way around. I think conversations should be brought up by men to really understand how to assist women, how to understand that if women have more roles to play in agriculture, a lot of people will be taken out of poverty. And this is not a joke. I think men should do more. I think we should create more avenues of discussion. I think we should change the way our perception, the way we look at the woman as inferior mentally and physically. I think we should wake up and smell the coffee. And like I said, I'm ashamed of getting all these statistics. And my question to Ndidi regarding, especially this profit bit and the yield thing, what, as women, as strong women, as leaders, what do you think as men should do or can do to really help in bringing down these statistics and making the job of women much more easier? Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to chip in, but I'm still ashamed. Thank you.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much for your thoughts. Mrs. Ndidi, Mr. Ibrahim asked you a question.
Yeah, so I want to respond to him, but also build on what Mariam has said. I
Okay.
actually think we're facing a crisis in Nigeria when it comes to gender equity. It's almost like people view the fact that if women are rising, men are threatened. The concept that we can't rise together blows my mind. We must rise together. You know, we're not fighting each other. We're starting from such a low base. So if we can increase the pie, if we actually see this from an abundance mentality, if we can increase the pie, grow the economy of this country, everybody benefits. It starts from the family. If your wife is doing well financially, you are under less stress, right? You two can grow wealthy together. I always use the analogy in my culture. I'm Igbo, proudly Igbo. And they, you know, growing up, they used to say Oriako, someone who comes to eat wealth, right?
Sure.
And then Akwatako, the one who actually brings in the wealth, the man is just hanging out. And then the third one is also Diame. I work with my husband together and we rise together. And that's what I tell people. My husband and I also Diame, 20 years of marriage. Has it been easy? No. It's not been easy because in the beginning, I can tell you, so many people were like, oh, you're working, you're in the paper too much, you're going to conferences, you're not a good mother, you're not a good wife, because I was trying to achieve God's purpose for my life. So let's be honest, we have to change our mindsets, right? That women have so much to contribute and we need to support them. And you know, the turning point in my own marriage and in my own life has been having a daughter. I use her as an analogy and I saw a question there. I used to ask my husband, imagine your daughter gifted. She's so gifted. Imagine that she married someone who said she couldn't do what God had given her to do. How would you feel as a father, right? You'd feel pain because you know she's so gifted. But that's what so many Nigerian men are doing. They're preventing their daughters, their wives, their sisters from achieving God's given purpose. And guess what? It brings great joy to the family. We all celebrate Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, but we don't know the battles that every woman has fought to get to those positions. And so my challenge, and Ibrahim, don't use me as an example because I have fought battles. Someone said it yesterday. I was at this Business Day women's event. She said, for women who have cracked the glass ceiling, she said, what happens is that there's been glass that has been shattered around them and they have battle scars. So we always say they cracked the glass ceiling. We haven't thought about the glass that has given them those battle scars that they are walking around with scars. So they also need support. And so we want to be role models, right? But we're honest, that is not an easy walk. So what are the three things that need to change? Number one, we need policies that dictate quotas. So I've used an example. I said, good, we have the statistics that 30% less yields. Let's say that we want to close that gap, okay? Because if women generate more yields, their families have more food to eat. There's more money during periods of crisis. Let's close that gap. Let's ensure that by 2025 or whatever year we want, that we say we've closed the gap and we're going to close it by ensuring that there's land reform policy, that there's a quota around financing, that there's a quota around female extension workers. Let's close the gap, okay? Secondly, we need male champions. We need male champions more than ever before. And I have to say, with all due respect, that our current administration doesn't understand that. We've actually regressed as a nation when it comes to gender equity. Even where we used to have deputy governors, many of our states even used to say, let me just give the position of deputy governor to women. In some states, and I'll use Lagos State where I'm sitting, they don't even have a deputy governor who is female anymore. They don't have to bother because the signal from the top is that it's not even required. So even where there used to be ceremonial positions, now it doesn't exist. We need female champions, men who are going to be sponsors, who are going to be like Mr. Ibrahim and find great people like Ugochi and say, I'm going to put her in the limelight. I'm going to support her. We need that. We need male champions and we need to find them. We need to support them. We need to encourage them. We need to applaud them. And third, we need to call out bad behavior. We need to call out bad behavior. Enough is enough. Where there is discrimination, call it out, right? Where there is bad behavior, and we've seen that many, many times. I don't want to give examples because you guys will now blacklist me. But in our context, we see bad behavior and we say, we excuse it. We say, it's Nigeria. After all, he's a senator. After all, he's a minister. Just leave him. He's an old man. No, Bad behavior is bad behavior. And let's be bold enough to call it out, and let's support people who call it out.
Thank you very much, Ndidi, Mrs. Ndidi. I'm very grateful for your response, and every other person, Mrs. Aderoju, Mrs. Mariam, and Mr. Ibrahim. Really, like you said, we need male champions. We really need male champions. And what you said about the battle scars is very true, because even with my own, as small as I am, I know what I have experienced to get to where I am today. And it's actually not easy for any woman out there that seems to be doing something. So I understand how scary. And for other women too that are seeing what you're going through in the process of achieving God's plan for your life, like you said, they can get scared to even try. Some people just decide, you know what, I'm not even going to bother. I'll just live my normal peaceful life, finish school and go and look for one rich man to marry and take care of me and have my children and then die peacefully. And I know it can be very challenging to be in the limelight, but we're grateful for people like you that show us that it can be done. We're very grateful for people like you. So I'm going to be asking this question, and I'll be directing it at Ndidi. You know, you are the CEO and managing partner for Sahel Consulting, which is involved in so many different projects, the Aldin projects, the one you just mentioned, and so many other projects. Now, how can technology, financial inclusion, and development of the agri value chain enhance the economic development of women in Africa? I'm sure we would have answered this question in some sort of way in the course of this conference so far, but I would like us to really talk about it as a question. So how can technology, financial inclusion, and development of the agricultural value chain enhance the economic development of women in Africa?
Thank you. I think Amina Oyabola started to address this question. Technology is fantastic because it allows us to leapfrog, right? It removes the drudgery associated with agriculture, and it allows us to double and triple our yields. And there's so much that we have developed as a nation. Our research institutions have great seeds, improved cropping methods. We now have greenhouse farming. There's so much we can do. The issue is that we have to democratize and ensure equitable access for everybody. And that's why I keep on talking about that linkage and those quotas to say for any program we're doing, we're going to ensure that 50% women benefit. Financial inclusion is tougher. And Mr. Ibrahim, you were part of a NAC meeting the other day. We have struggled with financial inclusion. And let me explain why. I don't think our financial institutions are ready for business. They are used to creaming the top. Many of them have been working historically with corporates and governments where you just move money and you get 10%, right? The concept of actually having to go and look for customers, especially customers in rural areas, is not something they want to bother doing. And we have struggled in their deal program to find banks that are willing to go to rural communities. They don't think that rural farmers are profitable relative to the big businesses they're used to getting their money from. And unless we force their hand, they will not go there. The same with the telcos. It is a challenge, right? And I know that you said Livestock 247 can register BVNs, and we look forward to working with you because honestly, it has been tough. Our funder the other day was asking us, what percentage, okay, so you've helped open 3,000 new bank accounts for your farmers. What percentage of the money flows to them? So it's not even that you just have bank accounts. The question is, do people want their money in bank accounts or do they distrust financial institutions? They want to see their cash. They want to see their cash on a daily basis. So you're going to have to train, retrain, and increase the accessibility of these financial institutions. And this is why we need cell phones so that you're getting your alerts every day. You're able to transact using your cell phone. So the cost of data has to be reduced. The cost of telephony has to be reduced. And unless we push for this as a policy level, we are not going to make progress. So I would like to employ Livestock 247, take this as a key outcome from this conference, and let's have some very clear policy recommendations and pressure on our financial institutions and non-bank financial institutions, our telcos, to create incentives and ease the barriers for people to become banks. Don't tell me that I have to have an ID card, a BVN, and at least 2,000 naira to open a bank account that I've never seen, I might never see. No. Remove the barriers completely, because you have off-takers like Sahel saying, yes, we know these people. We've registered them. We can trust them. Please work with us on this and let this be an outcome from this conference. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ndidi. And I'm going to tell you right away, we're going to take up on this challenge. And I discussed with Fisayo and Hafiz 2 days ago at the EU conference in Abuja, and on this issue. Like I told you at the NAC meeting, Livestock 247 is doing very well in terms of, it's like you said, they are not, the financial institutions in Nigeria are not used to. They don't see it as, we have to break a lot of things to get this done. But I like you said, we need to put more pressure. And one good thing about technology is that it's disruptive nature. I'm going to tell you that this company that it's coming and that's going to do a lot of, we've started discussion like contactless NIM registration is going on. And there's also this company that's coming, we're partnering with them, that you don't even need the POS. We're using some new age financial solution that doesn't even require the deployment of POS devices that the banks will always be telling you it's not possible, it's not possible. And you don't even need a smartphone. We're using basically feature phones of 2,000, 3,000 naira that the farmer normally owns. And there's what they call SIM skin. The moment they put that skin on the SIM, it automatically creates an app on that feature phone. And this is something that we think when we bypass the big financial institutions and the telcos sees us doing it, they may, and on the other part, Sahel can play a role in this. I know you, I know how strategic you are when it comes to pushing for policies. Let's partner on this, especially on the financial bit. I think whatever we're building now, without creating a very good pipeline for the rural farmer to pay and receive money, we may just be going around the cycle. Thank you very much, and we're going to take it up with you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Ibrahim, for the response. Thank you very much, Ndidi. So I'm going to, I know we've talked a lot about some of the issues that we've had as women that we are experiencing. So this question now is, I'm going to be asking Mrs. Aderoju, what role do you think governments, and not just governments now, even institutions, corporations, businesses, people generally, the society can play in mitigating some of these issues that women have? You know, while I understand that the government has a lot to do, but we are human beings and people, the government are actually people, they are flesh and blood like we are. It's people like us that get into power and become government. So what role do you think we can play to mitigate some of these issues? I know that Mrs. Ndidi has mentioned some of the roles we can play, but can you expatiate on that, please?
Okay, thank you so much, Ngochi. And thank you, Ndidi, for bringing that on. I'm always excited about the issue of technology, and I'm looking forward to the synergy that will come forth between what you are doing and what Livestock 247 will be doing. The family is the basic unit of every society. If you are going to be preferring solutions, it has to start from there. We have to start from the mindset that when a child is ill at home and there are two older children, the person who stays home doesn't have to be the girl. Because even we women, without realizing it, we are buttressing this cultural thing that we're talking about in how we behave even in the household. A boy and a girl are same, with same potentials. They can rise to become anything. So women who, as mothers, this has to be a mantra in our homes. Let every child know, because when you bring up a girl child who knows their worth, when they go out, somebody raised Ndidi, somebody raised me. There were barriers that I had to break. I remember my first product. Now that told me that they can, a Zobo drink, people in their research institute have said a Zobo drink cannot be put in PET bottle. And I said, says who? I started to write to the president, to Dora Akuyele, to Manufacturers Association of Nigeria. They said, no, don't fight it as a person. Let's fight it institutionally. Now they called me. Do you have evidence? I said 6 months research. I went there. The person they gave me to say, madam, we have conquered all that we are looking at, that we are afraid of. Believe me, if I did not make that move, if I was not raised up to be able to be affirmative in what I'm doing, I would just say, they say this is not possible. So from home, it has to start. Then we have, if we are 50% of the populace, we actually have power that we do not know that we have. Women don't take politics seriously. And I'm not talking about going to contest for political power. Not that anything is wrong with that. Nothing is wrong with that. But how many women are playing politics at the ward level? It is at the ward level that they choose delegates. We will not even encourage our daughters to go and do that. Educated ones will not even go there. So this whole mindset change is total, from individual families helping. I'm thankful that I have a husband that has, well, he was actually doing it to his own advantage. He used to tell his friends when we were young in marriage, he said, when the woman wants to do business, please support them. They are just working for you. Because when she makes 100 naira, she spends 80 naira on the home. She buys you a present of 12 naira and she keeps 8 naira for herself. So who is she working for, if not you? Support them and let them do it. But not everywhere is like that. Then, as Ndidi said, we have to be coming up with some points agendas about what we truly want and get both men and women to be on the same page. We are not competing against each other. Even if we thought we were, the incidents of the past 2 years that we've had COVID has shown us. Statistics say more men have lost their job than women. Homes where the women have not risen up to take up challenges or have not risen up to be having income, the children will have been scattered, the home will have been destroyed. So it's actually a good thing to empower a woman. Leaving the home front, how does our institution behave? Before, I read that we're supposed to have 35% representation of women across board. This is something indeed we need to push. We need to get women behind us to insist at the local government level, at the federal level, that this must be. And we're not talking that we just want to give freebie. Women are qualified. Women are even overqualified. We have to find them, and they need to put them in places where they can make decisions. Because if we have the right women making decisions, we'll be a lot better than where we are now. But it has to start from the grassroots. The telcos, I know countries where phones are given for free. Telcos should give phones for free, small phones to rural people. Put the SIM there and put airtime there for free. They can afford it. And it will be part of their social responsibility. These women are going through a lot. I know that in local government in Lagos State, it used to be a very big issue of all these cows going to collect taxes from women in the marketplace. But once they have this app that they use now, the money is remitted automatically. No middleman is saying anything, about it. Then we have to have a policy that will give women an advantage in some value chain of agribusiness. We're talking about logistics the other time. If a woman wants to own a truck, or if a woman wants to own a silo or a cold chain store, what priority would an institution give to that? What support will they give to that? It's a way that somebody has not gone before, not only giving the money, but giving the necessary technical expertise to actually assist that business to grow and to do very well. Not just looking at what is going to be at the end of this, but looking at the empowerment all over. Once a woman sees another woman is doing something, they are more likely to want to do it. The African Development Bank statistics say the largest number of small businesses are located in sub-Saharan Africa. And you can know that from statistics, majority will be Nigeria. Not only that, they are engaged in agribusiness. So this is something that is really, really very key to our economy. Until we hold this strongly and we hold government accountable, we are just joking. See, look at institutions. A lot of women have now gone from agrarian farming into food processing. Now they're in food processing, they have to also go through institutions like NAFDAC, institutions like SON. Between SON and NAFDAC, we don't know who is supposed to regulate and who is supposed to develop standards anymore. Because SON is visiting factories, NAFDAC is also visiting factories. And each of these is a cost on a woman. Most of the processing is done by women in Nigeria, but there is a barrier placed in place by these institutions. They keep going back, coming. Why can't everything be done centrally? Why can't we have all these things digitalized? You digitalize up to people submitting their form, but they cannot access their reports. They cannot see their progress. There's something wrong with that. We need to move from where we are now if you are going to help the women, because they make more money by processing. They're able to keep their crops or their yield for much longer to make better profits. And so institutions that will put a bottleneck on their way, we want that removed. Of course, we are concerned about food safety. But the bulk of for SMEs and the nano industries that they said they are promoting is counterproductive because the stress is just too much. And when the stress is too much, rather than NAFDAC or other agencies being facilitative, they become police people. But that's not their core business. The core business is to facilitate. People who work in institutions must know that they are serving the people. That's what I want to say for now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Aderoju, for the wonderful insight. So I'm going to be asking Mrs. Mariam this question. Mrs. Mariam, what are the specific steps a woman should take to succeed in what are the specific steps a woman should take to succeed in a quest for economic empowerment?
I don't know if there's specific steps per se. I wouldn't think it's specific. For everyone, it's different, I guess, depending on what where you find yourself. But I think it's very important, to maybe sort of add something to what Mrs. Aderoju has said, which is, this is, as Ibrahim said, a very exciting conference, and there's so much learning, even for me. Have done the farming and so on. Awesome. Okay, so what I wanted to add is it's true, women don't mobilize. Women, we tend to be rangers. We tend to want to work on our own and try to, do things, everybody doing their own little thing in silos. And we don't mobilize for, if you like, we don't create synergies. We don't associate with other women, and our voices do not become strong. And so therefore we cannot even, voting, for example, building up on that, we don't even register to vote to say, okay, look, we want to make, our voices heard. We don't want to register to vote. And when we do, we do not hold anybody accountable. And as Ndidi has said, we need to hold people accountable. We need to name bad behavior. We need to be able to say that, look, if you're not representing our interests, then we can call you back. Women need to be able to push for policy to be made so that there's that inclusion. And as she said, it's very important for us to get the quotas, to be able to say that, okay, this space, is for women and women only. So with farming, our own personal experiences that, we're called and women are included. There's a national fund for women to take money into and stuff and so on. But it's not really, supportive of women from what we found out. It was just, okay, come. But what it was targeting is people that already had, I think, for most of these, things, for most of these loans. Agricultural loans are open to women, but when you get there, it's, the thing that they give you to be able to access these loans is so high that most women will not be able to. So actually, this access for finance is just sometimes a dream for women. So specific steps of success, I don't know if there's, most of us are standing on the shoulders of giants. And as Ibrahim said, he and I met, on the LEAP thing, and LEAP was Ndidi's baby, I think very early on in the 2000s, in the millennium. And we met doing that. And I'm happy to say that even now, I remember a page of it that says, make your 2-year plan, make your 5-year plan, make your 10-year plan, and I think it's about women being focused and purposeful. Like she said, all of us have a calling and all of us have a purpose that we've been put on to do. Anytime, as you said, a woman just decides this is too hard for me, I'm going to just lie down and have my babies and marry a rich man, the purpose doesn't go, it still speaks to your ear. You lie down at night by yourself and you realize there's something missing, there's something that you're not doing, there's something that is uniquely you that you must give to the world. So I think first and foremost, it's actually recognizing that you have a unique contribution. And that contribution should not die. Other things would be looked to other women, even though they have glass, all over their backs and their backs are scarred. It's very important that we see that women are doing it. Women can do it. And these women look like us, they have the same pain as us. They go through the same processes. Because sometimes we also find that there are women that come on and it's more like, oh, it's just so easy. I've just done it, I've done this and I've done that and they're done. And they don't really, other women cannot identify with it. Other women seem to think, okay, this one, she's got it all sorted and she has done it. It seems so effortless. She's dressed nicely, she's doing that. And I think women need to be able to tell other women the reality of it. Like, look, it's not easy, but this is how I was able to manage it. This is what. So tell our stories. Very, very important. Find the men, that will champion us. As Ibrahim has said, that men should initiate these conversations. I don't know that they will. I really don't know that they will without us, actually finding those specific men that will push the brave ones like you, Ibrahim, and make them speak about these things that we don't want to speak about. Because once you start as a woman, it's always troublemaker, just come again, all these statistics, you're trying to rock the boat, why don't you just keep quiet, other women complaining, oh, you feminists. So it needs to be a man that would say to them, look, guys, let's look at it again. It's not feminism, or it's just, we just want our space. And we know, as Ndidi says, and as Mrs. Aderoju says, if a woman works, she's not taking the money elsewhere, especially if she has children. It's going to be right there being spent on you or what is of you anyway. So she makes it all okay for you to go out and be that superstar you need to be. So men, yes, we need those champions. We need women to believe in themselves and from a very, very young age. So all of us, women and men alike, we just need to grow women, find their purpose and encourage them to stay with it, whether it's material encouragement, whether it's just breathing life into them or speaking life into them. I don't know if there's specific steps, but I think those 3 things should be able to at least, get you going.
Okay, thank you very much, Mariam. So I just want to ask a question. You're a developmental psychologist. Are there specific ways, how do we raise children? I'm thinking that from what you said and what Mrs. Aderoju said, there's a lot of these issues starts from the home. So how do are there things that we can, I know you mentioned some key points, but from my own experience, I know that there were times when I would want to say something and they'll just, say you're a woman, or maybe you spill water on the floor. And the first thing they will say is this how you would take care of your husband's house? And I jokingly tell my friends that I never heard anybody ask my brothers that, is this how you take care of your wife? I was always asked, is this how you take care of your husband? Nobody ever asked my brother, is this how you take care of your wife growing up? So are there things we can incorporate into parenting, like intentional parenting to raise women better, to raise girls better? Mrs. Mariam?
I think this is really interesting. A couple of months ago or last year before the pandemic, we had this very conversation and Ibrahim was very much involved in this conversations about, men and family and so on. I think it's very important that we recognize that most of the time we actually, raise our girls and boys, and we're sometimes unfair to the boys because we make women very, very competent in life skills. Yes. are very competent. We hone their skills, we do everything for them, we get them to be able to cook, clean, and these are life skills. And we tend to think that not teaching our boys life skills is something that, you know, is good or it saves them from something. And so they don't really learn any personal responsibility in terms of, you know, even for themselves. They don't know how to take care of themselves and constantly would rely on someone to take care of themselves. And that leaves it open to many things. So if they don't get what they want, they would become maybe sometimes abusive, sometimes aggressive. And one of the things that we heard from conversations with men is that the men actually complained of the fact that nobody ever tells them that, you know, this is how to be a good husband. They don't even know. Nobody schools them. And so they get to this place where they come in, they're very ill-equipped. And then, you know, the fight starts from them. So I think in the way we raise children is very important. Life skills are life skills. People shouldn't pour water on the floor. If they do, they should mop the floor, whether they are men or they are women. Yes, if you are hungry, hunger is not a woman's forte. It's not only women that get hungry. Men get more hungry than men. So if you can't feed yourself, and I say shout out to all the guys that are in university. Once I heard, you know, a father advising his son that immediately gets to university, just occupy a girl. Just get a girlfriend that occupies so that she'll be cooking for him, and those 4 years would be, yes. And I was so shocked. So I think that, you know, it's in the way that we women, it starts from us. Nobody raises boys. Men don't raise boys. Men don't raise children, particularly, you know, especially in our context. So how about start socializing your boys yourself to be humans and not actually a gender role? You know, how will they take care of yourself? Is it applicable anywhere? And I think it rests on us mothers more than anything. And again, the male champions, because when you now explain and you now have dialogue and conversations, the conversations are the more important things. Why, you know, why wouldn't he sweep? Okay, you say women are supposed to sweep, but if it goes somewhere else and it's only him, will he keep his room dirty? You know, and so these are conversations that we consistently have to have. It's in the raising of men to appreciate the things that women do. So a little pointer, if you're going to pay somebody, you know, 1,500 for daily work on a farm, and you're working there from morning till night, I think this is just humanity. It's not really about men or women. It's about fairness. It's about equity. It's about inclusion. It's about all those things. Does a woman's work mean nothing just simply because you don't know her? You didn't marry her. Does marriage sort of say beast of burden? So these are things that we must challenge, and we must start. You know, if you're going to tell your girl, is this how you are going to be a wife? You should be able to tell your boy, this is, you know, is this how you're going to be a husband? And I think when we start it from that and from their formative years, we give them the tools to be able to recognize, appreciate, you know, others or the other. I think then, you know, we're going somewhere. We're going somewhere.
Wow, thank you very much, Mariam. At this point, we're just going to be taking our second poll question. It will be up shortly, and just going to take 20 to 30 seconds. Okay, please, attendees, please vote. In 20 seconds, it will be up, and then, okay. Okay, we just finished our poll session, and I'm sharing the results. The poll says, do you think agriculture should help in the economic development of women in Africa? And everybody agrees that it should help. Thank you very much for your answers. And so now I'm going to be taking a few questions from the attendees, from the audience. So this is from Kiara. Kiara, thank you for joining us. So this question will be to Mrs. Ndidi. She said, can I ask the panel about their thoughts on the gender data? What are the gender data gaps that we need to fill to help make informed decisions and informed policy? And what would the priority areas be? Ndidi, Mrs. Ndidi, please. Okay, Mrs. Aderoju, please, can you answer the question?
Okay, so I think we all know that in Africa generally, there is positive, reliable statistics. We rely more on what the development agencies have done, and you know, other agencies like the African Development Bank. But when we look at statistics for women, apart from the one that Ndidi has mentioned, which is income, that is income-based, we also need to look at decision-making process. There is income in the home contributed, whether in cash or in kind, by both the male and the female. How is the decision-making process to spend that income? When a woman earns an income, does she have the right to spend all her money the way she wishes? Or if it's a family money, how is the decision taken? There is no way that we will remove health from this. I will want to know, as women get more empowered, are they still having more children? Because I think that part of the education that I think should take place is so that a woman will know that having a lot of children is a burden on herself and on the society, because the days are gone when the reason for many children is because they'll be helping in the farm. Those areas for me will be an issue. The way a woman works in the farm impacts on her health. Many women are bent over and they are not old. Many go to the labor room and they come back not complete or even die. I would like to know how much percentage of those are people engaged in agriculture and how many of those are engaged in other vocations. We really need to know what impact this is making. Then we're talking about technology. We need locally in Nigeria here to be able to have data where Ndidi's work enables her to have data of the farmers she's working on. And like Miriam has said, collaboration is key. We need to get all these women in the agri space into some sort of group or the other. And because then the data collection will be a lot easier. We have to encourage them. Don't go alone. All the available incentives are available for people that are in groups. So the number one thing is how to get them into groups. The extension we're talking about, access to extension services. When digitalization comes, the access information will come to them on the phone. That's how it's done in Israel. It will come to them. They don't need to go looking anywhere. So even when we want to digitalize, we need to know who these people are, how many they are, what we need to do to change their orientation. They don't trust the banks, they trust themselves. But now that things are changing because of security issue, maybe this might be a way to go. These are some of the areas that I know that is not currently being captured, but that I would like to actually see a comparison between women that's in agriculture and other women. How is their health impaired or is enhanced, whichever way? Is it because they eat better? Is it because they are stronger? What is their life expectancy? Do they die early because they work in the farm? I think these are some of the statistics that I would like to see. Thank you.
Gucci, you're muted, I think.
Sorry, thank you very much, Mrs. Mariam.
Ugochi, please, you resend the link to Ndidi. She lost her computer died, so please resend the link to her.
Okay, we'll do that immediately. Okay, she'll get the link now. We have a lot of men on this in this conference, joining us in this conference, and we're getting lots and lots of comments from them. Many of them, like Mr. Ibrahim, are ashamed of themselves, and they're asking how they can help. So I'll just read out one of the comments or one of the questions. Good morning to our panelists and organizers. There are instances where women who thrive in their business and activities deliberately do not want to grow their businesses bigger by employing several technological tools. They believe they are not well learned enough to handle such. Are there recommended platforms to build desired courage in them? This is a question, sorry. So are there recommended platforms to build courage in them? I think we have a few. Mrs. Ndidi on this call, Mrs. Ndidi that is here with us, she's the founder of Leap Africa, and I think she has joined. And I think, oh, Mrs. Ndidi, welcome. Thank you for joining us again. We apologize for the little technological issue you had. So Leap Africa is one of them. I know there are many platforms where they can learn, where their skills can be enhanced. I know that Maria Kuti is one of them. Mrs. Mariam, she's doing a very wonderful job with women, especially domestic help. She's doing wonderful things with women in Maria Kuti. I know that Mrs. Aderoju also has the Lady Ranchers Network, which also helps women. So I'll just, okay. So another question, I'm a farmer and the insecurity has taken, this question is from Uma Ilyasu. It says, I'm a farmer and the insecurity has taken the cost of production in farming to another level. This year, we could not process in the farm. We had to take our corn in their husks home for drying and threshing. For a woman who has struggled to get farmland, how does she get the space or warehouse to dry 2 hectare corn, which is equivalent to 70 bags when threshed? Talking of financing, women are equally not accessing government interventions that are agriculturally based. While talking policies, I believe there is a need for a certain percentage of all grants and loans to be specifically allocated and restricted to women farmers only. Thank you very much, Uma Ilya. So this just goes to affirm what Mrs. Ndidi said about dictating quotas.
If I could just draw the attention of the attendees that are asking questions regarding groups, support networks. I think Ndidi has shared some of the website of Changing Narratives, Nourishing Africa. Nourishing Africa especially is doing a great job in terms of women entrepreneurship. I was part of the a panel that evaluated a lot of their pitches. A wonderful experience. I think Ndidi is doing a good job there. So she has shared the website for people to copy, Changing Narratives, Nourishing Africa. And I also know Mrs. Aderoju is connected with NECA. That's a network of women entrepreneurs. I think they're doing great jobs there too. If we can get the websites up so that people can follow them, or rather, maybe after this event, we can curate all this and share with the participants. We can get all these emails and share with all the participants regarding how to link up, how to get support as women entrepreneurs, and from Mariam's NGO to Ndidi's many activities and Ms. Aderoju's activities in that space. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much, sir, for that. So also, I think that I'm going to be asking Mr. Ibrahim this question. Sir, don't you think there is a need for us to have a network of male champions, having heard all that we have heard today? Because someone asked a question and said someone made a comment and said that one of the reasons why men might be reluctant to, to seem like they are supporting women is that they are afraid to be called women rapper. So don't you think at this point we need to have like a network of men that are bold enough to come out and say,
I'm a woman rapper,
champion. I'm proudly a woman rapper.
I think jokes apart, that's a very interesting thing, but I don't think we have to come out and form an association. Like, the conversation needs to start. And I picked something from what Ndidi said earlier on, that her changeover point began when she gave birth to her daughter, and she asked her husband that very nice question that I reflected on that thing, and I think that is partly responsible for the way I behave too, because I'm a girl's dad. I have 5 beautiful daughters, and I always wonder if this is done to my child. If I'm doing all that I can to give them good education, to expose them, to make them global citizens, and I would be very furious if someone somewhere will come and just keep her somewhere and lock her up and tell her that she doesn't have the capacity to do whatever she could do. So I think we need to talk. We need to be proud. It's not about being a rapper, or it's not a negativity for a man to champion a woman. We're all humans. And I picked something from Mariam. She said, we don't have to be gender. I mean, everything that has to be genderized, if there's any word like that. It's not about I'm promoting a woman because I'm a woman rapper, or I'm looking down on a woman because I want to be seen to be a macho man. No, it's all about being human. It's all about being human, and we don't have any basis in our. We claim to be very religious people in this country, as Muslims and Christians. We don't have any basis in our text of religious texts that we claim to follow that says that if you look down on a woman, each and every Muslim and a Christian knows that. I mean, all the texts that we hold on to so dearly, there's nowhere that you can point out and say that it looks down on, or God created a woman to be subservient to a man or whatever. It's all about being complementary. And that being a woman or party should be looked at as not as a minus to a man, because I believe a lot of men see that as your wife don't finish you, since you are allowing her to be doing all this. It shouldn't be looked at that. It should be looked at this my wife is somebody else's daughter. Like Ndidi said, if I restrict her, I cut off her wings, what will happen to your own daughter? So I can tell you a lot of men think like this, even though they may not come out and say, but I think the perspective that Ndidi gave, I think I'll be using that a lot. If someone is doing this to your daughter, what you're doing to your wife, how will you feel? And it will open up a lot of perspectives, and it will, I mean, that woman rapper will be, I'm contemplating doing a t-shirt, like, I'm a woman rapper. I think it would be a nice thing. Thank you.
It would be nice to see you wear the t-shirt, sir. Okay, so I have just one last question, and this question goes to all our panelists. The question is bordering on insecurity in farming communities. How does the insecurity in farming communities affect the development of agriculture, and by extension, the empowerment of women in Nigeria? We've seen that there's a whole lot of issues with, we've had a lot of issues with agriculture in Nigeria, from the farmer hurdle crisis and all of that. How does it affect empowerment of women in Nigeria, and then also the development of agriculture? I'll start from Mrs. Aderoju.
Yeah, thank you once again. I think what is happening in the economy now is open for all to see, because the first dislocation that we see from this is that food prices have gone up so high. Some communities are not farming at all. They've abandoned the farms. And if women are the majority of those farmers, you know they don't have any income. The family is already affected, the children are affected. Then women in the value chain that require raw materials for their production from all these places, those women also will have problem continuing their businesses, or the prices of raw materials are so high that they cannot engage in those businesses anymore. So when you look at it, the economy is suffering, the whole country is suffering, but the children will suffer. Some will not be able to pay the school fees of their children. Some women actually are the income earners in their families. The insecurity is not only in those communities alone, it is affecting the whole of Nigeria. Because even in the Southwest where I am, farmers are affected. Some are no more going to their farms because of herdsmen. In fact, it's one of these reasons that we started the Lady Ranchers Cooperative Society, because we looked at it that, okay, so much talk about herdsmen, they are disrupting farms, they are doing, and we looked at there is a model that we can follow. Well, it's not a thing that women typically will get into. We're all women who have succeeded in different areas of our businesses. And so we look at it that we can actually come together as women and do ranching and keep our cattle, keep our goats in secure environments, feed them through feedlots, give them good food, and be able to sell without being exposed to herdsmen and this sort of thing, and then even process the products. So if we want to say it's affected, we are affected, is an understatement actually. Something has to be done and done urgently. Otherwise, the insecurity that will come out of lack of food to feed our teeming population, we don't know where that will end. But certainly women are already affected. They are being affected on a daily basis. And if something is not done, they will continue to be affected. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mrs. Aderoju. I'm going to be asking Mrs. Mariam to speak, because I have just another last question that Mrs. Ndidi would answer before we round up. So, Mrs. Mariam, can you please talk to us on how the insecurity in farming communities affect the development of agriculture and women in Nigeria?
So I think it's sort of clear to see that there would be no industry in that sense, because the more it becomes insecure, especially, you know, in many areas of the north, Kaduna where we live in, apart from the kidnappers, you know, the bandits and so on and so forth, you know, other places in the north, there's no agriculture anymore, because you have to have life, you know, before you can go on the farms or before you can even get the produces to create value or to sell them. So I think Mrs. Aderoju has said it all, you know, that I don't know how best that women can mitigate that, because it's not that they can go physically. Maybe for ranchers, they could have their livestock within them, but even that, you can see the scale of the business has gone down. Perhaps if you had a farm before where your animals freely roamed, or you had, you know, a poultry that was outside of your home, now you have to keep it to where you are. But in certain communities, they actually, you know, bandits or, you know, the insecurity comes to your door. So I really don't know that there will be any industry if the government does not stand up and actually do something about it. People are going to go hungry. Children are going to be out of school. There will just be a whole, you know, everyone is disenfranchised from this, and in ways that is life or death. So it's a devil of the deep blue sea, where, you know, on one side it's the insecurity that is harrowing people, a vicious cycle, you know, and then it goes, you can't do anything, you can't farm, you don't have food, you cannot create value. And then, you know, if you do go out to say you're going to do that, then the insecurity gets you. So I think that this one is just something, again, that we have to mobilize for, something that we have to amplify our voices and ask the government to do better, because this is not something that, you know, women per se can do anything about it, especially because even if they are most affected by it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Mariam. And this last question was originally asked, directed at Mrs. Ndidi. Mrs. Ndidi, this is from Kiara. She says, what are the gender data gaps that we need to fill to help make informed decisions and uniform policy? And what would the priority areas be?
Yeah, so there are lots of gender data gaps. And I mean, I started off by giving you some data, but it was national data. So we would love to see data that is on a state by state level and by value chain. And we really need that even for, because I assume that there's a huge disparity between women empowerment figures and even income figures across our country. So we need disaggregated data, and we need data not just on income levels, on household income levels, on financial inclusion. We need data on access to finance, access to land, disaggregated across the board. We also need, I mean, we have good DHS data on health indicators, but we don't have good data on economic indicators. And, this Nigerian Bureau of Statistics, but we also need to hold our government accountable for giving us budget data around gender. I recently participated in a session in the United States where they were talking about budgeting with a gender lens. And I realized that in the Nigerian context, we don't budget with a gender lens. And we can't even disaggregate our data on budgeting from a gender lens. And this would be something we really need to take off. And the last thing I'll say from a policy perspective, I know I already challenged Ibrahim around financial inclusion. He said he wants to work with Sahel. But Ibrahim, you are big enough to take on some of these things. And one of the other things is we really, when we think about it, there are two ministries in Nigeria, in fact, three that I would like to get rid of if I ever had the chance. One is Women Affairs, and the other is Youth. Because every ministry should have a strong, when you put it in a ministry, people say, oh, there's a ministry, that one can handle it. Ask that ministry if it has a budget. They have zero to no money. So unless you put gender in the Ministry of Finance as a key pillar and it's mainstream, and in the Ministry of Health as a key pillar, and the Ministry of Agriculture don't have a gender desk, right? It is a pillar. This is 50% of your population. It changes the way we view our economy, and so I think we've kind of had a cop-out where we say we have a ministry that's handling it when it should be in every agency, and there should be 50% of our budget allocated to gender-specific interventions and tracks. So I'm a bit radical on these issues, but I think it's time we stop paying lip service to the concept of gender, especially in our agricultural landscape. No more gender desks at the Ministry of Agriculture. It should be infused in everything, and they should be quotas, and people should be measured for how they were able to achieve that 50% quota for every indicator. I tell you, it works. I'll end with this example. We're currently working with the Federal Ministry of Agriculture on training and capacity building through a major project funded by the Gates Foundation. And from the onset, the Gates Foundation said you have to meet a specific quota, meaning every training program you have to have more women in these programs. At first, we said, oh, but we looked at the entire ministry. It's not a 50-50 ministry in terms of employment. But by setting that target, they had to dig deep to find women. And guess what? The women are benefiting, because we need to ensure that even if only 15% of the ministry, I'm using as an example, are women, by saying that we have to have 40% of the class be women, we've been finding the women and they've been coming and benefiting. So unless we set those targets, we'll never see the change in behavior and the change in results. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure engaging with you all, and I look forward to future opportunities to support and partner with you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Ndidi. Thank you very much, Mrs. Aderoju. Thank you very much, Mrs. Mariam. Thank you very much, Mr. Ibrahim. This brings us to the end of our panel session. I know that we have learned a lot. I hope that we were taking notes, and I'm very grateful for the insight and the knowledge shared. At this point, I'm going to be introducing Mr. Mohammed Ibrahim, who is our Executive Director of Finance, to take the closing remarks, and then we come to the end of the conference. Mr. Mohammed.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much, Ugochi. I'm sure this is one conference you have really enjoyed in particular.
Yes.
Yes. So these courses are extremely important to us as Livestock 247, as we try to steer not only our company, but our sector, our country, and our lives in general towards the right path and towards economic prosperity. It started out as the topic was economic development of women in Africa, the role of agriculture. But we have touched on so many other things, and we would like to express our immense appreciation to our panelists, the three of them, Mrs. Aderoju, Mrs. Mariam, and Mrs. Indidi, and of course, our own Amina Oyebola, who started out with a very interesting video that was full of points. So once again, we thank all our attendees and our panelists, and we hope to keep talking. This is another series of the Livestock Talk, and see you again. Once again, thank you very much, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you for
Thank
having
you
us.
so
Thank
much.
you.
Okay,
It's been
one
a
last
pleasure.
information for everyone. The questions will be collated, answers to the questions will be collated and sent to everybody via email. So for our Facebook participants, please drop your email addresses so that we can send you all the answers to the question. Thank you very much, everybody. We're very grateful for your time. We believe that you have learned a lot and we would implement what we have learned. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
See you.
Mariam, it's a pleasure meeting you for the first time.
I hope you will send me your contacts. I've asked for it. Please do.
Yes, yes.
Thank you. I've learned so much. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for having us. So goodbye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. Bye.